Okay, let's make a start. Webinar number 1 is all about one-word images or invisibles. And when this was suggested as one of the topics for our webinars, I was really thrilled because one-word images are a real game changer as far as really harnessing the creativity and the engagement in your classes. What I love about one-word images is that it can be used in all levels, depending on, it could be done from primary. I have done this with year 4s, but I would have no problem trialing this with younger, even still, just keeping the language really simplified. And also this can be extended to older classes or more competent year levels that have had more exposure to Japanese. So definitely it is, as far as a CI technique, one-word images really gives you big bang for your buck. So let's make a start. One-word images are characters that the cast co-creates, that's a mouthful, together using limited comprehensible language. It's a process that was created by Ben Slavic and Tina Hardigan. And if you go to YouTube, I think that you might be able to find some demos there as well. But the process that I'm going to go through with you today will hopefully show you those steps that you can follow. And I really encourage you to have a go at doing this. Learn from me and take it one step at a time, because when I first found out about one-word images, I was super excited, and I used a lot of extra language, and that was not ideal. So keep it simple and follow the flow of the class and their interests and their energy levels, and honestly, you won't look back. So let's dig a bit more into why they are so good. As I said, the student engagement is really, really high. There's that creative process. So all the ideas are original, and it really ignites and channels their imagination and heaps of enjoyment. So all of those factors help to lower the affective filter. Now, the affective filter is something that Stephen Krashen has identified as one of the barriers for language acquisition. So if we can lower the affective filter, that is, get the class environment in a comfortable state where they know that risk-taking is okay, or even take it one step further, that it's so fun and so enjoyable that they're not even aware that they are learning and listening to and processing a lot of Japanese. So it really ticks the boxes of autonomy, competence, and relatedness. And so autonomy being that they have choice, they have some agency over the direction of their character, how that's going to develop. They're experiencing success because it's their character. They're aware of, they're part of the process of creating it. So the competence is really high. And I love this bit, the relatedness. A bonus to the language that they are acquiring is the fact that because this is very much co-created process, there's a lot of relatedness and connectedness and belonging in the group that can be really fostered. So lots of good reasons to try a one-word image. So step 1 would be to explain the process of what you're going to do, particularly if this is brand new, and to set the boundaries. So you might say, okay, class, we're going to create together a make-believe character. It can't be something that already exists. Your job is to help create the best character ever by answering all the questions that I'm asking you for detail every time. I will write down all the chosen details of our character in Japanese as we go, so we don't forget, and English too, if you need it. So if you're thinking of the learning intentions, you might phrase them like this. So I can help create a one-word image using Japanese that I know, and I can listen to, follow, and join in the conversation. And that is very much a learning intention and an expectation. So it's not okay for them to zone out, to just think, to sit back and let others in the class take charge. It's very much a shared co-creation. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. The success criteria. So my classes know this. I set this up at the beginning of the year for all of our interactions, our interpersonal skills. So if we're going to have success, we'll be showing that we listen with the intent to understand. We're not just sitting there separate from what's happening in the class, but we are listening with the intent to understand. So that might mean tracking the speaker, following on the flow of the conversation. It doesn't mean they have to say a lot, but they do need to listen with the intent to get meaning from that. Obviously, one person speaks while we all listen. Support the flow of language. So encouraging the students to help create, by their attitudes, a really positive flow and high usage of the Japanese language. So again, it might be for a beginner, they are supporting the flow of language by not using English, or by using gestures to indicate whether they understand something or not. So by doing that, they're supporting the flow of language. They're not calling out things that are going to derail the flow. And when we get that flow, it is really, it's tingly. I love it. And the students afterwards, when we say, you know what, we just spoke in, we were using Japanese for 5 minutes, the flow was really good. Number 4, really importantly, if the teacher is not clear, tell the teacher. I have my students give me a timeout signal if they need help, or repeat, and they use that quite effectively. And again, do your 50%. So that means that my job as a teacher is to make the language really comprehensible, to make it interesting, and I'll do everything that I can to make it really, really understandable. I'll say to them, I will do gestures, I will repeat things, I'll put things up on the board, and if need be, I'll clarify something in English. But your job is to listen with the intent to understand. You're part of this process, and that way they understand and take responsibility for their own learning. Step 2, start with one word or object. So with a one-word image, it can be an inanimate object, which you then create and animate. It could be an animal, but it is not something that's already been established, so already created, like Hello Kitty or a Pokemon character. That's already been created. So we're creating something brand new. So it could be It could be a hot dog, could be a toaster, any of these things, or anything else. The options are really up to the creativity of your class. So how do we choose? So we can call for suggestions, a hands up, gauge the feeling from the class about, which one really has gathered momentum. Definitely hear all the suggestions before deciding so that each student feels heard. And the teacher can then decide. If you have a mini sensei, that could be one of the students' jobs, is to listen, maybe do a vote and then make that decision. Or you could do a lucky dip suggestion and say, okay, everybody choose one object or one thing that you'd like to create, and then we can lucky dip that one. Step 4 is to choose the class artist, because as the class is co-creating this character with you, you've got a class artist who is drawing as you go. So they're listening and they're drawing their perceptions of this, or impressions of this character. So it doesn't have to be the best artist at all, but it has to be someone who is able to follow the discussion and who is able to give the effort to the picture, in so much as remembering to put all the details in. So to the artist, you might say, okay, you're going to draw a character as we created. You can only include details that the class decides on. So they can't go off and add bits to their character. It's a co-created character. So they must only include characters that have been decided on by the class. And wait till I say start. So that, whoops, has jumped to the back. Hold on. Okay. So we'll try that again. The next one. So on a PowerPoint presentation, if I was to do this, I might start with the first question. Nan desu ka? Dobutsu desu ka? Sore tomo mono desu ka? So that initiates some discussion about that, whether it's an animal or a thing. From that then, if it's a dobutsu, donna dobutsu desu ka? And so then you can milk that a little bit more and ask some more questions about what type of animal it might be. And again, you might need to then do a vote. You might, count up how many people have voted for the different animals and then make the decision. Inu desu. Hai. One word image wa inu desu. And then move on. So, nan saizu desu ka? Ookii? Sore tomo chisai desu ka? Again, using gestures. Ookii, chisai, sore tomo. And you can spend as long on each of these slides as is the interest from the class. So once the interest wanes, you move on to the next slide. But as I said before, don't zoom through. Less is more. This is something who's made this error of pushing through and adding more and more detail without consolidating the basic stuff. So, which is why we do a furikai shimashou throughout this, just to recap. So the next question might be, nani iro desu ka? It's a good chance to revise your colours. If you're also doing, and the students know, body parts, you might like to talk about the different colours of different parts of the body. again, judging on where your students are. At that point, you can then say, testo starto. So you've got the absolute basics. They know what it is, they know what the size is, and they know the color. So for the artist's work, you can use those really big Post-it notes, the really big ones. They're great. You could do it on a whiteboard. You could just do it on a piece of cardboard too. Something, if it's on a whiteboard, you can then take a photograph of it so you've got a digital copy. But it's important to know that the picture needs to remain hidden for the big reveal, which is always a lot of fun. And that can be lesson 2. As I said, furikai shimashou. Let's do a little recap. We do this throughout for different reasons. One, it's a chance to recap the details. So you know, and the students know, and they're getting more input. So if we're doing these regularly, they're hearing those language chunks and vocab regularly. So that helps them to process that language. So how do we do this? You can pretend that you've forgotten. One word image wa mono desu ka? Soretomo doubutsu desu ka? You can give either or questions such as that. You could use a quick brain break to revise them. And the one that I really like is called pencil grab. So pencil grab is where you've got 2 students sitting or standing face to face with a pencil in between them. And then the teacher makes statements about the one-word image, but they could be true or they could be false. So an example could be, one-word image wa inu desu. And if that was the case, they race to grab the pencil. The person who gets it first wins a point. They need to listen and grab only the correct answer. So if, for example, it was one-word image wa neko desu. Now that's incorrect. No one takes the pencil. If someone does take the pencil, their partner gets the point. Another way to recap is to ask a fast processor to recap. So one of your, 2%ers, the ones that process things really, really quickly, they can do a quick recap. You choose the ones that like to use and showcase their own language to do a little recap. After that's established, then add details. And as I said before, less is definitely more when starting out, because you need to follow the flow of the class. So some of the details here that you might like to add, again, by no means you do all of these in one hit, but if there's a lot of interest and energy with your character in the class, you can add extra details as you go and build up the description of your character over time. So obviously name, age, likes, dislikes, where they are, their location, a superpower if they've got one, their job, family, friends, pets, personality. You can really tailor the details to what you feel you need to cover in class. After you've co-created it, and again, a write and discuss can be something that can be done a few times as you add more detail to the character. And it is where the teacher and the class write the recap together. So the teacher could write it on the whiteboard or type it up and project it on the projector. And the teacher is really scaffolding the discussion by asking questions and writing down the text as they go. So it might look like, minasan, 7B クラスの one word image は banana desu ka? Here. Inu desu ne. Hai. And then so the teacher would then write up 7B no one word image wa banana janai desu, inu desu, and then keep going. Once you've got that, you've got a text that the students have co-created. They know the language. You provide more input when they do a whole class reading, and that can be done in lesson 2. Here are some of the examples that I've done over the years. And as I said, it's probably been the most effective way to really get everybody on board and listening to and using lots and lots of language. This one was Fergus the flip-flop, and lots of language here that would coincide with the self-introduction. Flip-flop no namae wa Fergus desu. Fergus wa Alaska ni imasu or ni sunde imasu. Banana ni sunde imasen. Fergus wa petto ga imasu. Petto wa inu janai desu. Petto wa sakana desu. Sakana wa chisai desu. Etc. etc. Tomodachi ga imasen, I think was that. Here's another one, Jeff, the drink bottle. Takusan okane ga arimasu, motte imasu. He's got one eye there. He's famous, but he's not very smart. So again, you can really, once these characters are created, you can then, you've got a fabulous character for a story, a class story. And this one's Becky the Keitai Denwa, and I think her friend is Samson. There's a little play on words there, which is quite cute. Ryan the lion, which is another good play on words here. So you can see the things that he has. If we're looking at the Super 7 and really maxing out the Super 7, you can see that a lot. Sushi ga suki desu. Brazil ni sunde imasu. Oh, look at this now. Wings. When this was decided, I didn't know what wings were. I couldn't think. So we just use that and say, okay, wings ga arimasu. Keeping it simple for the beginners, and then it's not a high frequency word, so I'm not too concerned about them remembering and being able to recall that. If they can tell me they don't have wings ga arimasu, arimasen or arimasu, I'm happy with that. They're showing me the use of those high frequency verb language chunks. And so if you've got any questions, please reach out and post them, reach out to me and ask any questions, or if you'd like more clarification on this, I can do another video to explain things in a bit more detail. But I do encourage you to try it. Share the pictures of your own classes' co-created one-word images, and yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun with it with your class. So until next time, o genki de.